Dirty South, dirty, dirty. Can y'all really feel? I got the East Coast feel, West Coast feel. Dirty South, dirty, dirty. Can y'all really feel me? Feel it. East Coast feel. Say what?
The most important part of your makeup is not the foundation, it's not your brush, it's not your concealer, it's your skin prep. Today we're going to be talking about some of the tips that I like to use to make sure my makeup looks flawless, and that always starts with my skin. After you have cleansed your skin, the first thing that I like to do is do a little light exfoliating. I exfoliate my skin 2 to 3 times a week, whether that's with using an exfoliating wash like this one from Tatcha, exfoliating peel pads like these from the Sephora collection, and even my chemical exfoliants from Paula's Choice. Exfoliating your skin makes sure that you get rid of all the dead skin cells, it cleans out your pores, and it really just gives you a nice smooth complexion. That's super important when you're wearing makeup because you don't want the makeup to look flaky or settle into any patches or anything like that. So exfoliating your skin is tip number 1. I like to use these daily peel pads on a regular basis, like I said, 2 to 3 times a week, but especially before I do my makeup during the day. It just makes my skin look so fresh and it's ready to receive the makeup that I'm going to put on. After I do my exfoliation, I go in with a hydrating serum, either a hyaluronic acid serum or one that has peptides in it. And both of these are very good for adding hydration and plumpness to your skin. When your skin is nice and moisturized before you apply makeup, that's going to make your makeup apply so much smoother. You never want to apply makeup on dry skin. It just settles into any crack, crevice, and it just doesn't apply well when your skin is dry. So I always like to go in with a nice lightweight serum, either hyaluronic acid or super peptide serum. Let that sit in my skin for about 5 minutes, and then I move on to moisturizer. Since I've gotten to be over 40, I started incorporating a nice eye cream in my makeup prep routine, and it has made a huge difference with how my concealer looks under eye. This is the area on my face where I do have my fine lines and I have a dry under eye. So adding a couple dots of eye cream and massaging that in and letting it sit for about 5 or 10 minutes before I apply my concealer makes a world of difference. My concealer looks nice and smooth. It doesn't look cracked or anything like that, and it definitely does not settle into my fine lines. So I recommend an eye cream. If you don't like to use one, you can just add a couple dots of your moisturizer under your eye and do the same thing. Lastly, of course, is a moisturizer of your choice. When I'm doing my makeup for the daytime, I really like to go in with a lighter, more everyday moisturizer, not something that's super heavy, but just enough to give me a little extra hydration. Again, because I have normal to dry skin, I have a couple dry patches right here. I never want to apply makeup on just bare skin without adding some type of moisturizer, and that's super important as well to the overall look of your makeup. If you apply it to dry skin, as the day goes along, the makeup is going to look cakey, it's going to look separated. So you always want to make sure that your skin is nice and hydrated and supple before you apply makeup. Let me know if these tips have helped you, and we're going to move on to the next part of foundation and how you can make that look your very best. Those are my quick tips for making sure that your makeup application looks flawless every time. Trust me when I tell you this, your skin prep is just as important as any makeup look that you'll do, and it'll really just elevate how your makeup turns out. On the next part of this series, we're going to be talking about complexion products and the best way to apply them to make sure they look seamless every time. When it comes to applying foundation, my number 1 rule is that you can always add to, but it's very difficult to take away. Meaning I like to work in layers when it comes to applying my foundation and build as I go. If I find myself needing more coverage, or if I really just want to look glam, I can always add more foundation. But adding on a lot of foundation at first is really going to make it super hard to blend the foundation to where it just looks seamless. So I'm going to show you the ways that I like to apply my foundation in layers to make my skin look flawless. Normally I would do a couple of pumps on the back of my hand with my foundation, and with my skin I can do about 1 to 2 pumps depending on the coverage of the foundation. foundation. I'm using this MAC Studio Radiance, and this is a medium buildable foundation, so I would do 2 pumps. I like to shear it out on the back of my hand before I apply it to my face. I don't like to take pumps of foundation and put it right on my face because it makes it super hard to blend. You have to catch up with the foundation and just start blending in. But when it comes to foundation, you want to work in layers. So start with one side of your face and go to the other. You can also use something like a makeup palette like you see me using here, and you can apply the makeup on here, but I still take the brush and shear out the foundation before I apply it to my face. It just works so much better with helping the foundation go on a lot smoother. Next is the way I like to apply it. As you saw me do the shearing out of the foundation first, this helps it get nice and even over the brush, and then I apply it in a way that I press it in and kind of drag it, and then I go in and tap over the foundation, and this just helps it blend really easily, so no streaks. It's nice and smooth. It's nice and even all over my cheek. And if you notice, the foundation has been taken off the brush and just blended nicely into my face. And you can see that it doesn't look cakey. This is my second layer of this foundation. It does not look like anything but my nice radiant skin. Next up is, what kind of tools are you using when you use your foundation? You can either use a brush or you can use a sponge. Some people like to use their hands. I don't like to do that, but it's totally up to you. Either way, the foundation needs to be blended into your skin. So if you're using a brush after you've applied it, you want to make sure that you go back over and just tap the foundation in, that you didn't miss any areas of your face, and you definitely want to blend up towards your hairline and back towards your ear, and also down your chin and neck, because you don't want your foundation to stop right here and the rest of this is a different color. You want to make sure your whole complexion is seamless. So when it comes to using a sponge, with a sponge, you can apply your foundation the same way by tapping it in on the sponge like this, and you can even still take some of that off on the back of your hand. This is going to give you a more sheer application because the sponge is sucking up the product. So this is going to give you a little bit more sheer application. I like to use a sponge after I've used the brush just to make sure that the foundation is pressed into my skin all the way and that I am blending it out. Or sometimes if I feel like I may want to take some away, you can just use a sponge to kind of suck up some of that product. If you're someone who likes to use a sponge exclusively, this is still going to give you coverage. It's just going to be a little bit more sheer. So those are my quick tips with applying your foundation. Again, when it comes to foundation, working in layers is going to be your best bet. You don't want to go overboard too soon. You want to be able to control the amount of product, and you definitely want to make sure the foundation is blended, patted into your skin so it looks seamless every single time. Hope this helps. So now that we have our foundation routine down, this next part is probably one of my favorite steps in my makeup routine, and that is color correction and concealer. Concealer really is the secret weapon in your makeup routine because it does so much. It can color correct any type of dark marks or any type of imperfections. It can be used to brighten and cover any dark circles under your eye. It's used to highlight and bring dimension back to the face after you've applied your foundation. So concealer is really that girl that does it all. I normally use 2 concealers, one that's about a shade and a half lighter than my complexion to brighten up my under eye and to highlight the high points of my face, and then I use one that is closest to my complexion, and that's used for touch-ups to go over any acne scars, any hyperpigmentation on my cheek or around the areas of my mouth, and really just help my complexion look absolutely seamless. Color correction is also a step that you can take, especially if you're someone like me who has dark circles under your eye. Color correction is going to help you use a lot less product when it comes to your concealer, but it's also going to act as a base and as a cover to help cover up any darkness, especially if you have, like I said, dark marks. I have a hyperpigmentation mark here and some acne scars, so using a color corrector that is kind of a peach shade, peach colors out any brown. So when I apply a little bit of color corrector under my eye before the concealer, it makes my under eye look nice, and I don't want to say smooth, but just one complexion. And then I add the concealer, and that really helps to bring it together. Does that make sense? I hope so. So when I'm applying my concealer, I do the same thing with my foundation. Most times I have been guilty of just swiping it on my face. It's really up to you. But for this demonstration, I'm going to show you how I like to apply it in a way that is most flattering. And again, with concealer and any complexion product, working in layers is going to be your bestie. So now that I have that on the back of my hand, I'm going to take a flat concealer brush like this that is not super dense. It still has some fluffiness to it, and do the same thing that I did here. And this concealer is closest to my skin tone, as you can see here. So I'm going to start applying that in the corner of my eye. So you can already see the difference between this side and that side. This has nothing on it but color corrector, but this concealer that is closest to my skin tone, I like to apply it right here in the corner of my eye, because that is going to help, again, cover any discoloration. And then I add some brightness going in an upward motion, because, you know, a little bit older, you want things to lift, but this just helps to highlight and add some dimension to the higher points of my face while still giving me some coverage of any dark spots or discoloration underneath my. So you've seen your favorite influencers do their concealer where they have concealer on their nose, on their forehead, and under their eye, and on their chin. And this is to bring dimension back to your face. Again, you're highlighting the high points of your face where light would naturally hit, and this is just helping to bring shape. So I just added a couple dots of my brightening concealer where I like to highlight, which is around my mouth, on my chin, down the bridge of my nose, and over the arch of my brows, just to give me some more dimension and shape. If you're someone who doesn't want to do that part, you don't have to do that. I just like the way it looks more seamless and completed when my makeup is done. And you just want to blend it in the same way. You can use a smaller fluffy brush like this. You can use a pointed brush like this one, because you don't have to be as precise, because you're not blending under your eye. So you can just tap it into place. And again, you don't want to swirl your concealer around. You want to tap it where you have it laid, and that way it is going to show in the area that you want to highlight. And I'll show you the finished result. This is what your face looks like after you have added concealer, a brighter concealer, to the high points of your face. And now you can see you're starting to have some shape. So you have brightness here in the middle of your forehead, or the bridge of your nose, I should say, a little on your forehead and under your eye. So your face is starting to take shape again, and that's another way that concealer can be used. It's not just meant to cover, but it's also meant to add dimension to your face. After this step, I like to give my face a nice spritz with a nice setting spray, let it sit for about a minute, and move on to the rest of the makeup. I hope this was helpful for you. As usual, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments.